This stuff here, Yerushalmi Yoma. Both the article, also other edition, and the Vilna Star at the top of the page, with different pages, of course. The article is on Daf Yud Chesem Alf at the top of Locha Beis, and the Vilna is on Daf Yud Dal Amar Alf at the top of Locha Beis. So yesterday we had in the Mishnah we had the whole Shakla V'Taya, the conversation between the Memuna, the person in charge, and the person who went up on top of the tower or the high place in order to see whether it was after Muda Shachar, and they had to confirm that it actually was definitely daylight. So the Mishnah says, why? Why need this? One time there was a very bright light, evidently from the moon. They thought it was the eastern sky become light from the advancing sun. It was too early. It's the middle of the night. So it was moonlight, not sunlight. And they had to be motivated base for that to burn it when they found out it was shechted properly. Now it says more continuing on to the next aspect of the Avodah Yom Kippur. Voridu Kohen Gadol. After it got to Yerushalmi, they would take the Kohen Gadol down to the Beis HaTfilah, to the mikveh. Zeh Klau or Mikdash is a general principle in the Mikdash. Called Mesechetz Raglov Ton Tefillah. Anybody who defecates has to go to the mikveh. Matim Mayim. Anybody who urinates Ton Kiddush Yadayim B'Raglayim. He has to do Kiddush Yadayim B'Raglayim. And there's a whole discussion. The Korban made it why it's called Mesechetz Raglov. Kinu Korban Golim. It's a euphemism for defecating. Loshem Mesech. Language of Mesech. Mo'ilam Mesech. It's like a tree which is so chech, which creates an awning on the ground. Because somebody has to attend to defecate. Korea Birkov, he squats on his knees. Umchas gufo is raglov, and his body covers his legs. We bring a reference by Shol. See, Sham Ma'ara, there was a cave. Shol Seches Raglov. Shol came to cover his legs. I always understood that possibly mean that he covered up himself with some sort of garment, which covered him while he was defecating. Not that his body covered his legs. So that was like his extra sneeze, which he had, but maybe misremembering. Okay, so then one asks a question. Moray Levana, the light of the moon, mitamer va'ole. It comes up like a date palm, straight up. Morachama, whereas the illumination of the sun, posed diffuses alpnei kol mizrach, right, over the course of the east. And as the Korban says, how can you get the confused between the two? Harry more of a matamro is zokuf kamakel, goes up straight, ramrod like a stick. More of a chama, and whereas the illumination of the sun is spatial, kan extends in all directions, throughout the entire east. So it says, "When akdun to have a sefer diarcha, I have a reshe." As the Korban says, furthermore, v'tu bishlam asov chodesh nichol dechaysh lukach. Okay, this is something which we don't realize because we don't ever look up at the sky in our day and age. But they knew when moon rises were close to sunrises. So at the end of the month, then we concerned with this. The moon rises around the same time as the dawn. But the beginning of the month, the Vanat Samachas Samachos Shachar, where the moon does not rise at a time which is close to Los Shachar. Why did they have to have this conversation? Because our mission seems like that there's also Mishlitza Maja also came Chol Yom. Did every day. So obviously it doesn't mean literally in the month, beginning of the month, because at the end of the month, beginning of the month, there's no moon, right? It's the whole point of but towards the end and towards the beginning. So again, Akdum have a sefer diarcha, have a ratio as the beginning of the month. And the Rechina said the they have a very cryptic line here. Yelos Shachar, Mei Yelos Shachar. Nobody knows exactly what it is, but it seems to be a certain star which shines in the middle of the night and is very bright. And so shines Shora Mizrach from the Yelos Shachar until the illumination of the east. Amud Shachar Adam Halach Arbas meal. A person could walk for a meal, which, assuming a meal is 18 minutes, although that in of itself is a question, or Psachim, so it's 72 minutes for a meal, 4 times 18. Mishur Mizrach Achnei Tzachama, again from Amud Shachar until sunrise, Tanei Tzachama, the other Malach Arba meal, it's another 4 meal. Okay, so Uminayin, so the Uminayin, and how do we know Shemel Sashachar Shar Mizrach other Malach Arba meal? How do you know that which is from Elos Sashachar until here Mizrach a person goes Arba 4 meal? Shemar, it says, actually, I'm doing this Arab Shabbos Parshas Vayir, although by the time stuff Yom, it's after Parshas Vayir, so it's going to be after Parshas Shua, but right now, a couple of days ahead. It says, Shachar Allah. And it was as when the sun came up, Vayitza Malachim Lemor, and the Malachim were goaded or encouraged Lot to say. So this is full bus as much Shachar Allah B'Tzemach Below Lemarkum Kachas Yishchav Shneim Nosechon Nimtzos Pentli Safu B'Na'ir. They don't go to the move out of here in order to not be caught up with the sin of the city and be destroyed with stone. Now for by Lot they were going from Alos Shachar till Hanetzachama. So, but it says in the pasuk ukimo. So from this darshan, just like there's from Amud Shachar to Netzachama 4 meal, so too from Ayos Shachar kamo. There's something similar from Ayos Shachar till Amud Shachar is also 4 meal. Before I go on, I want to go off on a tangent here a bit, which is this is I don't know if I recorded this when we did the beginning of brachas, but in the Kahati Mishnayos on the first Mishnah in Shas, he brings down Rebbe Avraham Elia Kaplan, and those who know me know that he's my hero about this topic of Amud Shachar. So therefore, I think I'm going to and Ayos Shachar. So I'm going to go to quote him. Farei Perushoham Luban Rebbe Avraham Elia Kaplan Zatzal. This is the clear parish of Avraham Elia Kaplan from his Sefer Divrei Talmud. Kavei Arishonim, the first lines of light. Shalim and Mizrah, which come out in the east, Besofa light at the end of the night. Nikroim Ayelas HaShachar. They're called Ayelas HaShachar, so it's known as it's not a star, but it's rather lines which come up from the rising sun way down beneath the horizon. Hochim Misrachim Lachashah, they go and expand after an hour, 72 minutes here. Achnim Kamud Or until they look like a pillar of light. Shkhan Lo Amud HaShachar, which is called Amud HaShachar. Ukashir Shalosh Ne'achad, which is about an hour again. Malach for about 72 minutes. Then it's a chama. Yeshrim, some say Shamud Zen Nikra B'Lashon Chachamim Haras B'nei Mizrach. There are those who say that this Amud, this is called B'Lashon Chachamim in our Perek, the illumination of the east. Yeshrim, some say Shanei Tzachama Nikra Kain. There some say the Haras B'nei Mizrach is actually the sunrise. Yeshrim, some say Haras B'nei Mizrach Bench Neimhu. Some say Haras B'nei Mizrach is between the two. That Amud Shachar is Kaidem Law, Amud Shachar is before Her Pnei Mizrach, for Netzachama Meuchrei Mena, and the Netzachama is after that, and that's all from the Divrei Talmud. So in any event, as we said, this is so between the Ayelos Shachar and Amud Shachar is Kamo between Amud Shachar and Hanetzachama, and they're both approximately an hour, 72 minutes according to our Gemara. If you assume 18 minutes per meal. I think Reb Chaim Kanievsky is also channeling Reb Avraham Elia. Inside it says, okay, so he's not a star, but rather these the initial rays of light from the sun. Okay, but he changes the gear. The Chaim changes the gears to the Gemara here. He says, in order that we don't have this problem of, well, by Lot it was from Muda Shachar till Hanetz, and we have to come on to Kamo. So he said the way he changed the gears is, Minayin Shemishiora Mizrach Ad Hanetzachama is Adam Halach Arba Milan. Shamba Kamo Shachar Allah Vitzim Alachim below Lemor Minastom and that there was the 4 meal from Shachar Allah, which is the hair Pnei Mizrach until Hanetz Chama. So that avoids the question of, well, how we play by Yosef Shachar to Muda Shachar of the Pasuk from Muda Shachar till Hanetz. Again, he changed the Girsa. Let's see if the article changes the Girsa. He does, and he changes that to go so the Girsa Pnei Moshe and the parallel sugi in Yerushalmi Brachos. Of course, this business of Yosef Shachar, which we just discussed, is going to come up in the Gemara more, and we're actually going to see in Machlekes whether it's a star or whether it's a rays of light from the sun. But I wanted to tell you the Rebbe Ravai ahead of time. So the second. So the Gemara asks, wait a minute. Means stom lezoar. Of course, that's zoar. Means stom lezoar abbas milin. It's only 4 mil. You also have it's more. It's more if you go up and down in the hills, but the malch like the in the desert, smooth away. So it's only 4 mil. So the so instead of being Kormeir says Park Minah some to me about 5 million and then it says so it smoothed it out and it came up to only 4 mil. But as the crow flies, it's 4 mil. Uminayin she so here also, if we have the Gerson Argamar before we hear, like we had before, so then now before Yasei Shachar to Muda Shachar now or Her Pnei Mizrach, and now asking from Her Pnei Mizrach until Hanetz Chama, right? Now Shem is Pnei Chama, but according to the Reb Chaim, you have to change the Gerson here and say now. The Gemara is saying, how do we know from Yosef Shachar to Mizrach? We already learned from before, from Tzohar, that Yor Mizrach ad Neitzachamas formula. Now we're asking about Yosef Shachar. Okay, so the order is reversed according to Reb Chaim. And the truth is, changing the Gersa makes a lot of sense because now the Gemara brings in Kamo, not before. So it says, Umnayin Mishor Mizrach ad Neitzacham, or according to Reb Chaim, Minayin She, which the Gemara brachas, Umnayin Shemei Yosef Shachar ad Yor Shior, Ma'ach Arba Mil, Kamo. So it says, Kamo means Ukamo means like Ukamo means that it's one is similar to the other, so it's symmetrical. They have something which is Kamo, which is from El Shachar to Muda Shachar, is the same as from Muda Shachar till Neitzachama, or from El Shachar to Her Pnei Mizrach, from Her Pnei Mizrach till Neitzachama. They're not the same thing. So what we were talking about before, how I yelled to the Shachra. He who says it's a star, toy. It's mistaken. Sometimes it comes later, sometimes it comes earlier. If it was a star, it should always come out at the same time. Like it says, so I said this is the standard time. So, Maikadun, so what, in that case, what does he hold it is? So like we said before, it can mean train the Krani din hor. It's like two horns of light, and although the word doesn't say it explicitly, like Rabbi Ramelia, like Rabbi Ramelia explains, it's 2 horns of light which come out from the sun when it's deep below the horizon. Come out, and they illuminate. Now we have a famous story, which also appears at the beginning of Yerushalmi Brachos. Dilma is the story of Bechir Ruba, Rabbi Shimon ben Mechalafta, Hava Mahalchim Bada Bikas Arbel. They were walking Bikas Arbel Bekritzta, and the Kritzta is the darkest night. At the end of the night when it's darkest. So they saw that its light came out. His light penetrated the darkness. Rabbi Chia said to Rabbi Shimon Bechalafta Rebbe, she said to Shimon Bechalafta Rebbe, who the Rebbe was, as Kormei says, Rebbe, Klomer Adam Gadol. He said to him, Rebbe. That was how he addressed him. The Kachi Losen Shei Yisrael. This is where the Gula of Am Yisrael takes place. the Ikvah of the Mashiach, when the Ula comes, B'tchila kima v'kima. It starts slowly, bit by bit, and koshi maleches. But as long as the more progresses, aleches meir becomes more and more illuminated. Because Baruch Hu Mazakas, of course, that. My time of what pasuk just says, Ki yeshe b'choshech Hashem or li. So when I sit in darkness, Hashem is my light, and Kormei explains very beautifully. But do it's no mishi yoshe b'choshech. So he sits in darkness, yabit or gadol pisom. If he looks at a great light, all of a sudden yavru einav, his eyes will be blinded. El tzarich or cotton. First, you have to open him a small light. How you see from that add gradually until he can tolerate the much larger light. B'tchila, and we have a similar parallel progression by the Megillah. Mordechai Yoshe b'shar hamelech. First, Mordechai was sitting in the gate of the king, and then Yoshev Mordechai b'shar hamelech. So then Mordechai returned to the gate of the king. So Chaim points out that this pasuk is actually after the next pasuk, and he switches the order. So it's to be actually according to Chaim, it says it should be B'tchila Mordechai Yoshe b'shar melech v'achar kach v'ikach amanis l'bush v'esasus, right? And v'achar kach v'yoshe Mordechai b'shar melech, right? And then v'achar kach Mordechai yoshe melech l'bush machus v'achar kach v'yivim ma'isor v'simcha. So there's a gradual progression from Mordechai sitting the Shar Melech, and then being Haman taking the Gedula, then he goes back to the Shar Melech, then Mordechai Yetzer Melech Nevush Machos, and an even greater Gedula, and then even greater Gedula of the final redemption of Purim, the Simcha. The Korban Eda says, Mordechai Yosha maybe Chamesh Mikros, Neg Chamisha Zmanim, Niskoim Lamalosh, or Meir Nochar Yom. So the five gradations. Okay. Ayala Sashachar, Muda Shachar, what's the fifth one? So before, and he said, in the Korban Hashemesh Batzoraim. It's in the calculation we show Yisrael. He says, Shachar Meir Mad Matchias Ayas Shachar, Alos Shachar, Chachar Cheir Mizrach, Chachar Netzachama, Vachar Hashemesh Batzoraim, which is the ultimate. Chachar Yilashim Shitzo, Mad V'lo Kol B'Basachas. Okay. Okay, going on to the next part of our Mishnah. Tani, Kohen Shias Darbe Mechabero. Kohen left the base of Mikdash to go speak with his friend. Im Lahafli, if it was for an extended amount of time, told him feeling it's got to go to Mikdash before he comes back. In Mishav was temporarily, Ton Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. So it says here Smicha in the Vilna. Carmel changes it to Umesicha, which means defecating. I'm sure the article changes as well. There's the Chaim also changed it. So the Umesicha Lo Shal Kalahi. Isn't Mesicha Shal Kal defecating doesn't take so long. Shines Mesecha, no. Since he defecated also so carefully, they made it like an extended period of time. Tani, we learned Yosha and Tone in the Tefillah. If he went to sleep, he has to go to mikveh. Sorry, I got called away a minute. Let's go back to the line. Yosha and Tone Tefillah. Nistam name Tone Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. Slept, he has to go do Tefillah. Nistam name he went to Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. So that's more of a Yosha and Tone Tefillah. If he fell asleep, he has to do Tefillah. So it's an interesting question. The Korban says, "Parach Yoshim and Mikdash, Tiny Tom Feel Lumberly, Yev Shali Shama Mikdash." Tom Passley, the base on Mikdash. Then we learn, Lochin Tani, then we learn, Loy saw Yeshiva Bazar Malchi based on Bilvad. Only kings from the house of David were allowed to sit down in the base on Mikdash. So how can you fall asleep? Now, personally, I could fall asleep standing, and I've fallen asleep giving shir many times, but okay. It's not normal. So the Avam Rabbi Hashem B'Shem Lokash Malchid Beis David Lo Yisrael Basra Shita. I think it's a unique sheet in the Yerushalmi. The sheet of Hashem Lokash. I don't think it's brought down in the Bavli that even Malchid Beis David were not allowed to sit in the Azara. So it says Marti Poter. It says that it's possible for a person to lean on the wall and then fall asleep. Lean on the wall and lean on the wall and fall asleep. So obviously, we say even though sleep standing up, you're going to fall down, and therefore you're going to wake up. So you're not really sleeping. So therefore, the only way you can actually sleep and be sleeping is if you're leaning on something. The of course the Shas brings down Ayin in base. Ayin Tosis Vachim Dafil Tes on base. Yom Masul Leisa Tosis Soit Daf Ayin on base. The Masul Amar Bayin Berikvil Shem Rabbein Yechil. Leaning on Mina Minatzad in terms of standing, leaning on something. Koshen Yochel Amar Alidei Siua. Anytime you can't stand unless you're supported by something Loshmei Amida. Koshen Mikan. This says Iv Shabishena Alidei Smicha. But you can't sleep unless you're supported yet. You see, it's considered to be now it's going to be yeshiva because you wouldn't be allowed to lean if it's to the yeshiva if you're not from Malchus based of it. So okay, it says v'yesh li'ashiv. So it's possible to reconcile it. Okay, it can be considered obviously standing for certain things and not standing for other things. That's an interesting question. My cousin Ofer Yerushalmi wants to go in the previous sugya where we changed smicha to mesecha with the word smicha and link that smicha over here to smicha over there to smicha over here. So that's an interesting idea. I'm not going to go into it because most of the Farshim don't learn that way, but it's an interesting idea. So the Gemara asks, how can you say that based on can't sit? They say before Kosh Baruch Hu. So Gemara says, "I'm Rabbi Yevi Banagra. Yishuv Asamot Tefillah. He didn't sit. He settled himself. He was Yishuv Das. He set himself in order that he be able to daven." Okay. Hello, Gimel. Eno nichlas lazar ba'avoda afilu tor. The person cannot go into the azara to avoda even his tor. Ad yitpo until he does tefillah. Okay, so the Gemara is going to discuss this. Okay, but in the meantime, Pashim Shot is that Silly Kohen coming to avoid and not somebody is coming just to watch. There were the 5 tefillos, and we're going to go through them, of course, in order, and 10 kiddusha Yadayim Raglaim on the Yom Kippur. Kulam Kodesh, Beis HaParva, all of them in the Kodesh, in the place called the Beis HaParva. Chutz Mizu, except for the first one, which is not an obligation for Yom Kippur, it's just a normal tefillah which you do before the Avodah, which was done outside the Azara. So Kini Masisa says, Gemara, this is the maid of Mishalei, the Nichas Azara, V'ula V'la Avodah. They're 2 separate things. And the person couldn't come even into Azara itself without and be passive. Couldn't come to the Azara and be passive unless he went to the mikvah. Okay, so the person is not going to Azara or to Avodah. Afilu tor achu toivel. Lo sof over lavoida, and not just if he's doing avoida. Afilu shel lo lavoida, right? So even not going to avoida, he still has to go to mikveh. So B'chaim asks, okay, so what would be what that's azara? Even when it comes just to azara, but not for avoida, what would be a case of lavoida v'lo azara? So it could be a story about burning the korbanos which was burnt outside the base of Mikdash. But he says that it's talking about somebody who's not coming. He's already in the Azara, and he didn't. I guess he didn't come in for the. He was toivo when he came in to Azara, but lo amanas to do avodah. So now when he decides to do avodah, he has to go to the mikveh. Or else, if he was being the entire night, he was makdir evarim p'torim. So when it starts to avoid again in the morning for the chiyas the next day, so he has to do the he has to new tefillah. The Chaim says it's from the Taisus Rid. So the hechtim says he gives. So Gemara says Shalus ben Zoyma Mama kol tefillah. Why do you need a tefillah just to go into the Azara? If you know your Torah, why have to go to the mikvah? If when you go from kodesh to kodesh, you require tefillah. Uh, like of course we see on Kohen Gadol when he changes from Big Day Lovin to Big Day Zov and vice versa. Michol Kodesh L'Kol Tzechin. Certainly she requires tefillah from Chol to Kodesh, right? The Gemara is going to cast aspersion on this svara, but I guess we'll actually leave it for tomorrow since it's already on your test on Rav.